Welcome to the Conscious Conversations Network, where the real get honest and the silence finally gets broken. In partnership with the Jelly Roll Effect. J for the journey to enlightenment through liberation of life and finding yourself. From the highs of the spotlight to the battles nobody sees after the final whistle.
We proudly present Life After the Gridiron.
Our goal is to highlight the realities they face after service and to align with these institutions to bring support and real solutions. This is about respect and before making any changes to your diet, medication, exercise, or treatment plan. Life After the Gridiron.
Welcome to Life After the Gridiron, where two brothers from two different battlefields come together with one mission. One, a former professional athlete who knows the glory, pressure, and pain behind the game. The other, a decorated military veteran, and together we pay homage to the forgotten heroes. Our brothers, our friends, the warriors who gave everything on the field and on the front lines, but were left fighting silent battles alone. We're here to tell their stories, bring awareness, and help create real solutions so they can receive the care, support, and peace they deserve. Let's talk about it on Life After the Gridiron.
Greetings. I'm Dr. Brother. Greetings. I'm Dr. Brother Suave, and this is Life After the Gridiron with my very special co-host.
How you doing? What's up, everybody? This is Lionel Dalton, Super Bowl champion, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm here in sunny Miami, enjoying the beautiful weather. I hope you guys are as well. We have a great guest today. I'm excited about it. He played with me in the Baltimore Ravens, but he also from Detroit, Michigan, represented DPS. I want to bring on my boy, AJ.
Hey, welcome, AJ.
Appreciate you guys having me here.
Yeah, you see me just butcher your last name. I can't even pronounce your last name. I was like, man, I can't even say the last name.
Hey,
I ain't gonna butcher.
My high school coach couldn't say it after 4 years. He still couldn't say it. He just like, hey,
AJ. Oh, I forgot his last name.
Ofodile, yeah.
Ofodile,
yes,
Ofodile.
sir. Yes, sir.
That's South African?
Nigerian.
Yeah. I played with somebody. You're not a kin of Femi, are you?
No, Femi. I played that 1 year with Femi too. Femi is Yoruba. I'm Igbo.
Okay, you Igbo. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Igbo. So my dad is from. I actually lived in Nigeria for 2 years. I was telling Swab earlier. I lived in Nigeria for 2 years, 4th and 5th grade. So and then I came back to Detroit after that because my dad went back. He's a radiologist. He went back, set up a clinic in the village he grew up in. So we stayed there for a couple years, and then Mom brought us back, and got back going.
So I didn't know you were Nigerian, bro. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I just know that now because I just lived in Abuja for the last about 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And so I learned about the Igbo guy and the different tribes, man. The food, I love the food, man. Yeah, it's delicious. Yeah,
it's a special place. Like when you just look at Nigeria and you look at the amount of representation in all these different areas, you know, the NFL, the NBA, the medical field, engineering. Like I mean, it's a pretty unique, unbelievable, like a very like an extremely talented country. It's pretty special.
I see everybody seems very educated in Nigeria. And I feel like it's a time with a bunch of educated people with not enough resources.
Yeah.
And I think when you're that educated, that's when people start leaking off and doing it because they also known for scamming.
Yeah.
That's the big thing in Nigeria. Go ahead.
You know, one of the ethics, this is going back a long time ago when I was young, and the ethic used to be that, like when my father grew up in a rural village, no water, no running water, poverty, and they would take whoever they felt was the best and brightest and pool their resources to send them out to get educated in Europe or America or whatever. And my dad was one of them. So that's how he ended up here. And the idea is that you come here, you become educated, and then you go back home and you uplift the country. One of the most difficult things, though, is when you come from that environment and then you get here with all of the access and the luxury and the lifestyles and things that we have, and you're educated and you're making money, it's hard to fulfill that commitment and go back. And so you get all these talented, people who have the ability to really uplift that country, but probably not necessarily getting as many as you need to pour back into it, which is the original plan. The plan itself is brilliant. the implementation of it has fallen short, you know. And again, I'm maybe dated on that. It's going back to just my father's era. So,
I mean, I know some brothers that's actually doing what you're talking about. So when I went over there, you know, I was on dialysis for a little bit. I got sick, and I had to go to a dialysis clinic over there. It was four brothers. They go back and forth from Atlanta to Nigeria, and they do. They have a whole dialysis center there. They got the first one in the capital, and they were they were doing dialysis. They coming back. They got American doctors that do kidney transplants over there.
Yeah. Okay.
So I met a couple of brothers. I can't pronounce their last names, but
I got you.
brilliant brothers. So there was some brothers that doing some good. I met some good people over there.
No question.
They give them a bad name, but when I went over there, I really met some good people, brilliant people.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing that they're fulfilling that responsibility to their, you know, to their community and to their home and uplifting. So that's really at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Life itself is about who can you impact, who can you affect, who can you help, encourage, you know, guide, whatever it might be. That's where your legacy is going to be found when it's all said and done.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. So AJ, so you know, again, we have the name of our podcast is Life After the Gridiron. So before we, because I would like, you know, the listening audience to just get a little bit of background about you, because I did a little research on you about your playing experience and your coaching experiences, your dreams and aspiration, that things that gave you purpose. So could you tell us initially just some things about you and your playing days in the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. Besides a brief detour in Nigeria for a couple of years, like I talked about, I was born and raised in Detroit. I grew up on the east side. My neighborhood school was King High School, which was a big football powerhouse at the time. I played for the East Side Raiders. Yeah, still. I played for the East Side Raiders, which was kind of the feeder police athletic league program to King. My sister went to Cass, which was the Magnet school, like Lionel said, the bougie school, and spent a little time around there. You know, I looked and I wanted to break away and do something different. All the Raiders went to King. I wanted to kind of redefine myself. So I went to Cass, which was downtown. Probably most people consider it, at least in my opinion, but I think it's widely held that maybe the top urban high school in the country. Tons of accolades. We had, at my point when I was there, we had 2 Miss USAs, former mayors. I mean, I always make the joke that I'm probably the least successful person in my graduating class. I mean, doctors and engineers and lawyers, and you know, so it's a pretty impressive legacy at Cass Tech. So I went there. I graduated from there and signed with the University of Missouri to go play football. And in my young foolishness, I went there and always had this plan that I was going to go to school for 3 years. I was going to enter the draft after my junior year. I was going to go get drafted, you know, make all the money in the world, never have to work again. And, you know, up until the part about making all the money in the world, never having to work again, I was on schedule. And it wasn't quite like I planned, but I did enter the draft after my junior year. I was way too young. I was 19 during my junior year, 20 when I got drafted, which is, you know, really, in my opinion, way too young to be trying to navigate that world. But here I am. I was 20 years old, and I'm out in the real world, no longer a kid, and having to try to figure it out. And got drafted by Buffalo, who was the oldest team in the league. They were fresh off 4 straight Super Bowls. And here I come in there at 20 years old. It felt like I was playing with my uncles, like, you know, the average age, 32, 33 years old. So that was a little bit of a culture shock for me. And then the first got hurt right out the gate. You know, hurt my knee. Oh, wow. Went on IR. Never had been hurt before, so didn't quite know how to handle that. And this is just all part of the youthful growing up and trying to figure it out. And came back the next year, had a pretty solid training camp, but they were in a position where they were trying to get everything done right now. I was more of a developmental prospect. So they went with another guy, released me. I ended up at Pittsburgh on practice squad for a year. And then that's when I ultimately we went to the Super Bowl there when I was on practice squad. Got a chance to kind of soak all that in, see what that felt like. And then got released the following training camp and then went to Baltimore and was there for 4 seasons. And that kind of led me up to, you know, through my career, basically. Okay, great. I'm so happy. Yeah. So when you transitioned, what was the thing you did after your playing career was over? I immediately went into coaching. So and for me, it was one of the biggest blessings in my life. That
was smart, bro. That was smart, man.
From a pure mental emotional, spiritual standpoint, you know, because we define ourselves as athletes and players. It's kind of all you know. You pour everything into that. My whole identity was wrapped up into that in a large way because it's all I really knew. And then all of a sudden it gets pulled from you, especially the way for me. I ended up hurting my knee, so it's premature, at least in my mind. Fortunately, I had went to school every off season, and so I was getting my degree at the same time. So I got my degree. I was done playing. But I jumped right into coaching, and it was the saving grace because I had all of a sudden had something else to pour into, you know. And to me, the thing you figure out real quick is if you're pouring into other people, it's a whole lot more powerful than trying to pour into a career, catches and money and all that. And so I never really missed a beat because my schedule was the same. I was still involved in football. And in my mind, even in a much more impactful way, because now you got all these kids that look up to you. Here I am, I'm fresh out the NFL. They think I know everything. And, you know, and the crazy part of coaching, I didn't know anything. I'm just, you know, I'm winging it and I'm learning, you know, whole staff was young, but, you know, I did care about the kids and poured everything into it. So for me, that eased the transition and made it way more seamless because I never had a period where I had to figure out who I was or what I was going to do. And I just hit the ground running on that. And that's, you know, just grew from there.
So you never had that drop off period? Because a lot of us, for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I had the drop off period. I'm just sitting. First, I wouldn't start partying. I got divorced, so I'm in Miami partying. Think I'm gonna party either way. I'm doing everything you can do besides working out. You know, so I'm partying, and then I went to a point where I was just sitting there and I was just lost for a minute. And it wasn't until a friend of mine in my neighborhood was coaching Little League football, asked me to come coach. Then my depression just flipped within coaching those kids for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it completely changed me just pouring into the children. So I can see, I wish I would have did it earlier. So yeah, that I can see how that helped a lot because that definitely helped me just pouring in the others.
Yeah, no doubt. And everything I know about you in that role, I mean, with your personality, your mind for the game, I mean, it's a natural fit. Like you can jump in and create relationships with anybody. I even go back to, not to switch gear, but just when I first met you, and you may not remember, but it was on the bus and we were going to a training camp practice and you and Fitz were in the back talking. I'm hearing you talk. I'm like, man, he's from Detroit. I started out, you know, and I was listening to y'all talking, just back there having fun, they laughing, everything else. And I figured it out. And then it hit me because I didn't know who Lionel Dalton was, but everybody in Detroit knew who Jelly Roll was. And I'm a few years older and I'm in college and guys are still like, man, Jelly this and Jelly that. And he's out there killing people and, you know, dominating, doing all these things. And that was with Chris Floyd and Leon Merritt and those other young guys who were stars. And those names were ringing bells. And so it hit me. I'm like, oh, that's who that is. And so I remember, you probably remember, but I went up and asked, I'm like, hey, y'all from Detroit? And it's like, yeah.
I think I vaguely remember you.
Yeah, this was a while ago, but that was, and for me, that was always a good feeling because we had Fred Wilkerson, who was from Cass as well. He was on that same bus.
Fred stayed with me. Fred and Fitz both stayed with me. So most guys that came to Baltimore young from Detroit, I always let them stay at my house. Yeah. So they had to pay no more. We had a townhouse, so we had a good time. But yeah, Fred stayed with me. Fitz stayed with me. It was another brother. What's his name? The brother from, I think his father from Ghana. We just said his name. The big guy, Shaka, not Shaka, his name was Shaka. I can't remember.
Shabaka Majid.
Shabaka. Yeah, Shabaka stayed with me. And then we had the other brother that Cowboy. What was his name? Carl.
Carl Powell, yeah.
Carl Powell, yeah, he was there too for a little bit. Yeah, so we had a lot of Detroit boys, and that was nice. I didn't know so many was in the league. Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that used to be the thing in the warm-ups. You go find him. Remember Ty Wheatley at the Giants? Go find him.
Oh, okay.
Derek Mason, Titans. We used to get to see them all the time. All those guys, man, I used to love seeing it, man, because the PSL is something special. So seeing all the guys used to be. Some of them Detroit guys, maybe not PSL, but still adjacent. So, you know, always root for those Detroit guys.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Man, this is so refreshing to hear because, you know, again, a lot of times it's that transitional period, not knowing who you are, what you're doing, and I understand you more than a football player. So it's just so refreshing considering some of the stories that myself and Jelly been hearing and interviewing people. It's just wonderful because I don't hear any emotion. I heard a nice, smooth transition, you know, which was really, really, it's love. I love to hear stuff like that. So, so tell us a little bit about because you didn't mention you have any mental health issues or physical issues or concussions, because again, that happens to a lot of players.
Yeah.
But we noticed that you didn't have it. But did you have any physical issues at all,
Yeah.
other than the knee injury?
Yeah, I had everything you could think of on my left knee, and I did have some concussions. My first concussion, ironically, was in the Detroit PSL basketball game. Got undercut trying to dunk on something. That was the worst one I ever had. Was completely knocked out. Woke up in the hospital like, whoa, where, and didn't fully dress myself. Said I was talking. But in the NFL, you always, the thing is, we didn't understand what concussions were. Right. So we would say, oh, I just got dinged. I just wasn't really concussion. I just got dinged. But a lot of, especially my primary role was going to be running down on kickoff and punt team, and then being on kickoff return. And, you're on this wedge. And back then they had the wedge buster guys, the Orpheus Roys, 300-pound guys running down, trying to blow up wedges on. And, you blocking those guys running full speed. So you're going to get dinged for sure.
Yeah.
On that. But long-term wise, health-wise, the best advice when I tore my patella tendon, that was the most major knee injury I had. It was big. Fred Barnett was my position coach at the time. And he was the first guy, he's a wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was the first guy to tear his ACL and return the same season. And he came and visited me in the hospital right after having surgery. And the advice Fred gave to me, he said, if you keep your weight under control and you always work out, you keep a good routine, eat relatively healthy, you do all that, he said, you'll never have real problems with that knee. And I think that carries over into a lot of things. I think it carries over into the mental health piece. I think it carries over to the physical health. Just having a regimen of things that you do physically to keep yourself physically right, and then also mentally and spiritually, where from a holistic standpoint, you are keeping yourself where you want to be. And I think sometimes, and like Jelly said, as we're trying to figure it out, sometimes it's real easy. We jump into things that like are immediately gratifying. We jump into relationships, jump into, partying, jump into, whatever it might be important to those. Right. And the truth is, coaching can be that too. You can jump into coaching and neglect all those things about yourself to your detriment too. So, there's always this balance that you got to keep in mind your health overall, because care how many games you win, how much money you got, at the end of the day, your well-being is the most important thing when it's all said and done. And that's all you're going to care about in the end. So.
Absolutely. So I would want to continue this, but right now we're just going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with our special guest, AJ Ofodile, on Life After the Gridiron.
Friday night lights, college dreams. But most players never make it past high school. When the dream ends, life just begins. Some made the league, but when the game ends, depression, anxiety, financial ruin.
And we're back with our very special guest, Mr. AJ Ofodile, tight end for the Baltimore Ravens, and our co-host, Mr. Super Bowl champion, Lionel Jelly Roll Dalton. Man, we just having a great show so far. And man, this is incredible. I really enjoy that AJ is just sharing his transition and into the world of coaching. And it's just a great experience to him. So AJ, as we mentioned, a lot of times we talk about concussions. That's what we put a lot of focus on. Your experience with coaching, dealing with coaching kids and dealing with the concussion protocol. What do you guys do when it comes to high school students, and what mechanisms that you guys use to keep in place?
Yeah, that's the thing. To me, the thing that's changed the most in all of my time in football from when I started to now is that aspect of this. One, how we identify concussions, what we understand concussions to be, what we know causes concussions, and then also the technology involved from the development of helmet technology, the overhauling of tackling technique and those kind of things. But primarily that's been the biggest change in football, in my opinion. So we understand now that a concussion is not, you got knocked completely out. It used to be when we played, I can name a whole bunch of situations. A guy gets hit, he's knocked completely out. They wake him up with smelling sauce. And if he could tell them, hey, I'm in Baltimore, we're playing the Titans. I play tight end and my name is AJ. All right, good. You can get back in. You can go. That's how it used to be. You see it all the time. Like that's just normal. And if you didn't go, you probably was soft. Like, you probably like, hey, this guy doesn't really want to play. And so that's how it was. And we understand now that you can have a concussion and be fully coherent. You get hit in the right way. Like I said earlier, you call that get dinged back in the day. You get hit, you're a little woozy, but you're coherent. Well, we know now that's a concussion. And one of the things that they've done, when you see the helmets now, especially Riddell has their Axiom helmet. I want to say it's the F7 by Schutt. There's all these helmets now that are highly developed helmets. Everything on the inside is completely different. The Axiom, as an example, not to do a commercial for Riddell, but the Axiom, they come in and they scan your head and they make that helmet scan directly to fit your head based on that scan. So I get those helmets back on kids that have them and it has their name on it. It's scanned towards them. And then the other thing is they have technology in those helmets that we got a little thing that looks like an iPhone and it goes down on the field with us. And then that transmits or collects information from those helmets. And that goes back to the company. And then the company sends me a report with the level of impact each helmet experienced, where the impact took place. And so from a coaching standpoint, you can say, okay, we didn't notice it during the game, but it's a pretty violent shot. So let's go check this kid. Let's make sure he's doing okay. Maybe we want to back off the contact in practice and early in the week, even if he feels okay, just to be safe. And then the other thing it says is, okay, he experienced that contact on the top of his head. So, now you have a concern. You just go back and find his play. And is he hitting with his head down? Does he have his eyes up? Is he doing the things technique-wise? And then you can go back and you can say, okay, I'm going to program my practice that my individual period with this individual kid is going to be working on fixing whatever that technical flaw is that's causing him to have that impact on the top of his head instead of where it needs to be. And so you have that level of detail, even at the high school game, where you can help keep your kids safe. And so, when you see all of the tragic stories with CTE and some of those things from my era of playing, as somebody who's still a big part of the game, the game's still obviously a huge part of my life. For me, it feels good that, hey, we're trying to do some things to make this next generation of players be way safer and way more protected than what we might have been.
So is there like you said it's like an iPhone, so it's just like a little mini computer. Yeah. And is it reading the helmet? So is it chips or what's in the helmet? I don't know if you know the tech side, but I'm saying what's in the helmet is reading it. So is there signals going back and forth to the helmet like a cell phone type, like 5G?
Yes. Yep, and I don't know if it's Bluetooth technology or I don't know if it's, I don't know the exact mechanism in terms of like the exact hardware that goes into the helmet, but that phone definitely reads that information from that helmet and then it gets it back to the company who then sends us a report on it. And so I'm not exactly sure.
Sometimes I think it's programmable. How you know what player? I guess each helmet has. Okay, so each helmet probably has a number.
So what it does is when you turn that phone on, it first, like anything else, it identifies each helmet. So each one of those helmets get identified and it posts a list and it says, okay, you have 19 helmets found, and then so it differentiates between each one of those helmets. And then each helmet, because again, those helmets are scanned directly to those kids, then we get a read back on that particular helmet of where it was. So it literally identifies each helmet in that system. And then you can get information on each one of those helmets, individual information on each one.
That's impressive. I noticed, those, I can't think of them. It's a mechanism that placed over the helmet. You often see them when you're watching them practicing.
Like the little, the
Guardian caps.
Yeah.
Guardian caps.
Guardian cap. Okay.
Yeah, and those are the norm in college football. Like everyone's going to practice in a guardian cap in college football. They're becoming more and more common even in high school football as well. So I think the biggest thing is everybody has a mind towards concussion protocols and concussion treatment and preventing concussion. Everybody's got a mind.
Yes.
It's like at the heart of your program. That's as important as everything. And so even with our concussion protocol, there's just no compromise on it. Like, if we're even suspected of a concussion, you're in that 5-day protocol. You're going to be away from activity, and you're going to have a return to play protocol, and we're not going to violate that at all. And I don't know anybody that does. And so, the kids, it's different now. They understand how important it is. And, we always wanted to play, and they still do too. But I didn't understand, if I was good to go, I'm going to go play. I didn't understand any long-term ramifications for that. I just
yeah.
And none of us did, man. It was glorified.
No,
it was glorified to get that paint on that helmet. You know what I'm saying?
No question.
Yes.
And so learning this information, man, you're giving me second thoughts about my son playing football.
Yeah.
Because of the protocols that you guys have now in place to protect them.
Yeah.
Okay.
No question. It's definitely different. Now, I was blessed enough to coach my son. And interesting enough, I coached my son at the high school and at the college level. So that was so my son played for me.
Dion.
Yeah, yeah. Not quite that level though, but
you did it before him, right?
Yeah, I did it before he did. So but I coached him at Rockbridge High School. He was a 3-time All-State player. He was an Under Armour All-American. Signed with the University of Oregon out of high school, went there, broke his foot his freshman year, so he had the red shirt. And then the second year he played a little bit and was in really good position, but then their coaching staff got fired, which is, part of it. By this time I was coaching at Mizzou, and I had went on field and was coaching, went from personnel to on field. I was coaching wide receivers. And so when he was ready to transfer, he transferred to us. And so I got a chance to coach him at both levels, which was pretty good. But just in terms of your son playing, for me, that was the biggest thing. And I was like you. I was like, I didn't really have any interest in him playing. He was a basketball player, and he was a really good basketball player. And I always said I would never push him to play, and I would never just kind of leave it. And then 7th grade, the itch hit him, and he just had to do it. He was like, he just wanted to play. He wanted to play. He wanted to play. And next thing I know, he was playing. And I had no clue he was playing. Like, he's just out, and so it ended up being good for him. He got his education completely paid for. He's got a bachelor's and a master's degree. He's got a great job. He's done really well. He's walked away from, he had a couple foot injuries, but, no head stuff, no concussions, no any of that. And so, he gave him a really good start in life. He gave him a network base, all his teammates and coaches, alumni from the couple schools. And so it was good for him. And I think the key, is who do you want to put who do you want to allow access to your kids? Who do you want to trust your kid with? And when you put them with qualified people, they're going to be pretty safe. You put them with unqualified people, then it's a gamble. And so, I've been fortunate. I've done it for 25 years, and we've had a pretty good run on. And, it's always like anything else. I'm way better today than I was 25 years ago. And to me, that's the key. So, but, with where we are now, with what we know about concussion, what we know about safety, with what we know about head trauma, we're able to do a pretty good job of keeping our kids safe. So,
yeah. When me and Lionel talk, I hear his concerns because, when you think about the injuries that you experience, you're like, I don't know. And so like one of the goals that we want to do is to empower and educate people to help them understand the dangers of this very violent sport. However, it is gifts. People have talents and gifts, and it's you're exceptional when you can make it to the league and play. However, there are some things when you consider all the injuries, but then as Lionel and myself, we're both being more educated on with technology and the experiences of our guests. We're learning because I was like, yo, I don't know if I want my, like my grandson played the other day, and I told him, hey, learn how to do tackling. Don't be going out there head first. Keep your eyes in their chest and everything. So he got 10 tackles. But when speaking to you, it was like, okay, if we can have people doing those things, you're scanning, because our last guest, the first guest was talking about being responsible and like have an informed decision. And so when you're talking about allowing our kids to be in the right hands and not just send them out there, and also monitoring, when you have these hits here, hits there, and you're like, okay, we tracking this stuff, so we can say, okay, we can minimize the contact. We have in the Guardian caps, and then we also less physical contact, and also increasing tackling techniques, and that makes a parent feel a little more comfortable, as well as a person saying, okay, well, it's a violent sport, but we can be more effective and eliminating a lot of the head traumas. And because CTE is something serious, you know. And I think about the traumatic brain injury I have, and it's like, I'm like, okay, I don't even know how I'm going to be in 5 to 10 years from now. You know, I could see the change in myself. My short-term memory is terrible, and so I'm concerned about that. So, you know, I have a little subjectivity in terms of what the game and what all did to me as a veteran as well. So now it's just really refreshing to hear your story as an athlete, a former NFLer, but also a coach, and your connections with technology and advancements they have made. And that definitely makes me feel good. And I know that brother right there feels a lot better.
So what would you say, AJ, to the we asked this question, but what would you say to the mother who, like, well, I guess to the mother that's considered putting their kids in tackle football, but was scared and hesitant because of the same kind of fears I had? What would you say to the mother?
Well, you know, that's actually a real conversation we have to have all the time. I mean, that's a real concern for a lot of parents. You know, and the reality of it is just the things that we talked about. Right? You know, the game can be very safe. The biggest thing, you know, I weigh out the risk reward piece of it. And, you know, you have to the first thing you do as a coach, you say, okay, I'm going to mitigate, I'm going to minimize, I guess, this risk piece. I'm going to do everything I can, from what we do, offense, defense, special teams, to how we train our kids, to how we equip our kids, to how we equip ourselves with information and knowledge. I'm going to do all those things to minimize that risk as much as possible. And then the next thing I have to understand is, for me, and I use my life as an example, and many people have similar experience. One, every dollar I've made as an adult has been directly or indirectly related to football. So it's you know, my education was funded through football.
The same thing.
My spiritual growth was directly due to my experience in football. Some of my strongest relationships I've ever had were because of football. My ability to impact the world and impact young people is because of football. Like, football gives me a direct path to do all these things that have made my life incredibly fulfilling. Like, I've been able to live a life that I feel like is meaningful. I believe I've been able to pour into people and help pull people up and have an impact on the outcome that people have had. Like, you know, we're talking about coaching, period, and all the roles that you have to play, all the hats that you have to wear. One of them is dad, uncle, brother. I mean, there's all these, you know, and when I think about all of the kids, and I ain't get it right every single time, but when I think about all of the kids that I feel like, you know, even if it's just 10% was because of me, that I was able to move on to the next stage of their life where they could be successful and they could have, you know, even kids that people said this kid has no chance. And so when I'm talking to that mom, the first thing is, if your kid really, really wants to play, you know, it's hard to tell them no. You know, like I said, with my son, I wasn't pressed about him playing, but when he came and fired up about playing, it's real hard to say, no, you can't go express this gift, you know. And some people, I know, some people have, you know, always have, you know, everyone's got a gift.
Right.
Some people have multiple gifts. In fact, most people do, but I believe that most people have a gift that helps them cultivate other skills and help them cultivate other interests and other beliefs, because that gift, what it did for them and the platform it put on them, it helps them expose them to other people and all those things. And so I don't think any of it is haphazard. So when I'm explaining to a mom, I kind of lay out that these are all the things, you know. I'm having a conversation with a young man that's a basketball player. He's 6'7", 315. This is in real time. This is happening now. So he reached out to me today. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow.
You said 315?
He's 6'7", 315, and he's 14 years old. One of my former players invited me to his Hall of Fame ceremony. He got inducted to the High School Hall of Fame. He went on to play University of Georgia. He's another one that's doing fantastic in his professional life after that. He gave the commencement speech for his graduating class at the University of Georgia. Unbelievable kid. So for me, it's like, I almost cried at the, you know, and I'm not a big crier. I'm like a stoic. I'm not a real emotional.
I think he cried. Nothing.
I didn't. I was close, though. I was close. when he was talking at the thing and he was bringing up old conversations that we had from when he was a 14 to 15-year-old kid, talking about how those things motivated him and pushed him to that next level. He ended up being Rivals number 36 player in the nation. I mean, he ended up being a really good player. So I'm at his ceremony. A basketball game is attached to it. So I go in and I watch the basketball game, and I see this 6'7", 315-pound 14-year-old running around the court. And he can play. He's smooth. He can run up and down. The first thing I saw that kid, I said, that is what a first-round draft pick looks like. That if he is a left tackle, somebody is drafting him in the top 10 in the draft and the things that he can do in his life. Now, he's a heck of a basketball player, and he's probably got some opportunities there too. But, boy, when you start saying, you know, it's like a 7'2" kid on the court, like you got to say at some point, basketball's got to be this kid's gift at 7'2". There's got to be somewhere in the equation. With 6'7", 315, he can run like this at 14 years old. My mind says, man, football got to be part of the equation and the plan for this kid's life to fully optimize that. So, you know, he decided he was going to play football. A God told me that, wanted me to talk to him now and kind of guide him through what that looks like and encourage him in some of those things. That's what we're going to do. And it was the same things. You know, parents weren't necessarily really fired up about him playing because of potential injury and those things. But, you know, the reality is this when it comes to the injury side too. You know, we got a really good baseball program at the high school I'm at, and had a kid almost die in a baseball game because he dove and ruptured his spleen. You know, you think about baseball and that pitch is coming at you 95 miles per hour. You don't get your head out the way. That's a whole lot worse than that wedge buster. Like that's, you know, so
right. There's
very little things that you can do that there aren't a measure. Like I said earlier, the worst concussion I ever had was on the basketball court. So at 16 years old, I never had that. Yeah. So that hitting that floor with no helmet on it. So there's a measure of risk in everything you do. So to put your kid in bubble wrap and say, even though you have this potential to be and do some extraordinary things, for fear of what may happen, I'm going to pull that from him. I'm not going to let you have access to that. To me, that's where I think, you know, and I don't blame anybody who says football is not for my kid. I get it. Like I don't, but when sometimes when it's so obvious that they need to be playing, you know, it's so obvious that, you know, that's something you got to look at and say, man, is there something we're going to miss out on here? Like a plan for this young man's life. And cause you watch this kid, it's too obvious. Like, so that'll be the conversation. When you have a lot of those conversations with parents, because especially after the concussion movie, and you know, and that was a great thing because
it was.
I think it brought the spotlight to it. And I think you talked about consent, informed consent. That was the whole problem for me, was that people knew information that they weren't sharing with us. They knew when they were sending us back out to play that they weren't telling us, hey, look, here's the risk if you go out there and play. You know, the only risk I knew is if I don't go back out there and play, maybe they cut me because I'm not that good anyway, so I'm expendable. So let me go out and play. Like, so, you know, but you have to get those people information. I think that's the world we're in now in football, that if a kid gets hit and he's like, coach, I want to go back in the game and I suspect a concussion, it's an automatic thing that I'm like, no, because you got 60 more years to live at least. So we're going to take care of that today. This one game, this one moment ain't that important. So we'll get you right, and then we'll have you for the rest of the season instead of being stupid and losing you for the rest of maybe your career right here as a sophomore in week 3 of the season. Like, so we all have that kind of common sense now. So when you start talking to a mom, these are kind of the things that we point out in the conversations that we have, and we say, look, this is an amazing game in the right context. If you do it the right way, if you care about the kids in it, you create a family. You still talk to your high school coach. Just like you said, you create a mentorship relationship. And I think it's one of the biggest blessings I had in my life were other men who poured into my son. My partner from Homestead, I was telling you about, he's actually on his coaching staff right now, coaching wide receivers. And he had my son since 2nd grade. He was my son's 2nd grade basketball coach all the way through 5th grade. Then he ended up coaching with me in high school. And I wouldn't talk to my son about football or anything. I just wanted the dad-son relationship. And so he would be the one that would discipline him in football. I discipline at home, but in football, he would take care of that. And he would be the one that would. So when you got another quality man, someone who's a reputable person with high character and high standards that can pour into your son, It's an amazing thing. You know, my son thinks I love him because I'm his dad. That other man having a relationship with him in the fondest form affirms him in a different way. So it's good. So football does that as well. So there's all these things that football has brought into my life that's been, and I would explain that to any mom to say, you know, your son's going to be in good hands and it's going to be a great outcome and it's going to grow him up. There's some great things that happen because of it.
Yeah. So on the show, we talk a lot. We've talked to a few, wives of NFL wives, and we hear a lot of the horror stories. You know, we hear guys dealing with ALS, CTE, and things of that nature. It's refreshing to hear that the powers that be is doing something to combat those issues from the older players. So would you, my question is, would you do it all over again?
For me, for a lot of the reasons I said, I definitely would. I would 100% do it again because, you know, and obviously for me, it's easy to say that because I walked away from it relatively unscathed. And there are other people, like you said, you know, CTE issues, ALS, even some of the orthopedic issues. I bump into some of my former guys that I played with and against, and their ability to walk and move around and be mobile, and the knee replacements and the hip replacements and all those things. So it can be a brutal game in that context. So I understand anybody who says, nah, it wasn't worth it. For me, it was because of all those things I talked about, you know, my maturity, my growth, you know, how it set me up for life, the network it created for me, the relationships, you know, that'll be lifetime relationships. It put me in position to have the career that I have now and continue to pour into other people through the game. And so I would do it over again because it's, you know, what I got out of it greatly outweighed what it cost me. You know, I have some arthritis in my left knee because I have multiple left knee injuries. The crazy part is my right knee feels worse than my left, and I never heard it before. So, you know, but that, you know, so yeah, for me, it's easy to say I'd do it over again, but some other people who have maybe some more, you know, bigger challenges based on what they did in the game, you know. And for me, a role player playing some special teams, backup tight end. I think I started 4 or 5 games in my career, maybe total. Played in some other games on special teams. It's a lot different than somebody that's playing 75 snaps a game, every game, 16 games a season, season after season after season. The toll that's going to take is going to be different. So I am definitely empathetic to anybody that says, nah, it's not worth it. But for me, just through my experience, I would for sure do it again.
Okay, I like that. So we're gonna, because I have 2 questions, but I do want to go into one other commercial break, and we'll be right back with AJ Ofodile.
Friday night lights, college dreams, but most players never make it past high school. When the dream ends, life just begins. Some made the league, but when the game ends, depression, anxiety, financial ruin.
Welcome to the Conscious Conversations Network, where the real get honest and the silence finally gets broken. In partnership with the Jelly Roll Effect. J for the journey to enlightenment through liberation of life and finding yourself. From the highs of the spotlight to the battles nobody sees after the final whistle.
We proudly present Life After the Gridiron.
Our goal is to highlight the realities they face after service and to align with these institutions to bring support and real solutions. This is about respect and before making any changes to your diet, medication, exercise, or treatment plan. Life After the Gridiron.
Welcome to Life After the Gridiron, where 2 brothers from 2 different battlefields come together with one mission. One, a former professional athlete who knows the glory, pressure, and pain behind the game. The other, a decorated military veteran, and together we pay homage to the forgotten heroes. Our brothers, our friends, the warriors who gave everything on the field and on the front lines, but were left fighting silent battles alone. We're here to tell their stories, bring awareness, and help create real solutions so they can receive the care, support, and peace they deserve. Let's talk about it on Life After the Gridiron.
And we're back with Life After the Gridiron with our very special guest, Mr. AJ Ofodile. So we're back. Listen, I had these questions for you because I'm really impressed, a little emotional, because as you, like Lionel and myself, we was talking about, at this stage in our lives, being able to accomplish a lot in our lives, but after a while, you accomplish a lot, then you're like, okay, what purpose do I have right now? And so life after the grind seemed to have been real purposeful for us to feel motivated about bringing in some change, empowering and educating people about this game, also about veterans and everything. We felt good, but what impressed me and got me emotional is to think about, looking at, and I'm generally a person who look at the bottle half full, but I had became a little pessimistic because of, my personal experience with on traumatic brain injuries and all the injuries I've had throughout my career. So when I'm listening to you, AJ, it's just like really when you was talking about everything about what football did for you, not one time did you mention money. And I always tell people it's more than money. And I'm hearing you talking about your ability to influence people's lives and how you appreciate the camaraderie, the network you build, and those relationships. And you definitely is very inspirational to hear that, because you didn't mention money at any time. It didn't define you. What's thing is that you had purpose and you transitioned very well. And I want to tell you, thank you for sharing that with us. I really do. And the last part, the old school versus the new school. Old school, how we did it, grind it back in my days, and then the technology. What advice you would give to an old school parent, like would be like my age, is saying, oh, they need to go ahead and they soft when they don't hit. Forget that. Let them sip some salt and get right back out the game. Why my son not soft? Let him get right back out there. The old school versus the new school, the technology, how you guys measure and get all this data. What would you tell an old school parent?
The biggest thing to me, the number one question I asked myself this going into coaching. When I first became a head coach, started as an offensive coordinator the first year, so I'm on somebody else's program. When I first became a head coach, I asked myself, I'm going to examine everything that I've done and that we've done, programs I've been part of, successful, unsuccessful, and really just everything in life, period. And were we successful because we did this, or were we successful in spite of doing this? And you will be amazed at how many things you find that you're like, yeah, we did it that way, but we were successful in spite of that. Like, that didn't make us successful. We're lucky that didn't prevent us from being successful. And so I try to examine everything. I don't think there's anything that's sacred when it comes to that. I think you need to re-examine all the time. Don't go off tradition. And one of my big pet peeves with my coaches, if they say, well, that's just kind of how we always done it. That does nothing for me. I want to know why we're doing it. Why is this the best thing for our kids? So here's some crazy things that I do. I don't condition in my football program. We don't go out and do conditioning. We do speed work in the off season, movement training, because I think, again, when you start talking about injury prevention and you start talking about developing better athletes and kids with better body control to help protect themselves, I spend all that time doing movement training and speed training. We spend a ton of time in the weight room to try to make sure our kids are developed holistically. So posterior chain development, because, obviously from a performance standpoint there, but then also rear delts, everything we can do to prevent ACL tear, everything we do to prevent labrum tear, the most common things to prevent concussion. So I spend all our time there. And then when it comes to conditioning, I script my practice out and I say, we're going to play X amount of plays in the game. So we need to practice some form of those reps at a high speed in practice. And then that was our conditioning. And, and similarly speaking, we asked the kid to go out there and push it beyond, like in practice now. And you got a kid doing 25 reps in a row. And then in the game, they're going to go 5 plays and do this. And we're going to pull them out because we want a fresh guy in. We practice at 7:00 at night because we play all our games at 7:00 at night. Missouri gives you 20 practices in the summer. So we do those at 7 p.m. That's when we go out and practice, because I'm not going to get anybody caught up in a heat related issue. I'm not going to hurt somebody's child, practice them at 1 o'clock in 100-degree weather in humid Missouri when we're not going to play at 1 o'clock ever in humid Missouri. So we're going to do 7 p.m. So I take that approach to everything. Like, what's the common sense approach to this? What makes sense? Like, what are we doing it just to? And the other thing is too, the biggest problem with us as football coaches is we say we always talk about toughness, but we don't really know how to define toughness. We don't really know what toughness means. Like, one, we don't know the difference between physical toughness and mental toughness. We get them mixed up all the time. You can't create mental toughness through physical means. You can only create physical toughness through physical means. You create mental toughness through mental means. And so, as an example, a close friend of mine, former teammate at Cass Tech, former teammate at Mizzou, spent a little time in the NFL. He's currently an associate athletic director at the University of Louisville, Pat Ivy.
Okay.
Not Pat Ivy. So, unbelievable person. He asked me one time, he said, do you think the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are tough? I said, yeah, they got to be to manage that kind of, they got to be really mentally. Yes, are they mentally tough? Yeah, they got to be really mentally tough. Do you think any of them could pass your conditioning test, the test I used to do back in the day? I said, nah, none of them probably can. But you said they were mentally tough. And you told me that this conditioning test is making your kids mentally tougher. And that's when I got rid of it. I'm like, he's right. Mental toughness has nothing to do with this. Mental toughness has to do with making sure your kids are motivated, teaching them how to be emotionally stable, putting them in positions to have easy early successes so they can build on that, challenging them appropriately so they can experience some failure and learn how to deal. That's how you create resilient, mentally tough athletes. And none of that has to do with none of it has to do with Oklahoma drill. None of it has to do with bull in the ring. You know, you can get a lot of those things done. You know, to me, I'd rather spend time teaching a kid how to do an effective reach block, effective cutoff block. I'd rather spend time teaching the kid how to cross face. I'd rather spend time teaching the kid the correct way to catch a football. You know, a simple thing. And I had another guy, another sports psychologist asked me one time, you know, I would make kids do push-ups when they drop the ball. And he said, wouldn't you be better off spending that time that they're doing push-ups, having them catch more balls? Like, and I'm like, yeah. So that kind of mentality through everything you do, you can make the kids love the game. You can make it a whole lot of fun for them. You can make it not torture. My kids are always in fantastic shape. We're very strong. We're fast. You know, I had at a school that had 3 Division I players in its history. I have 40 Division I players at that school, including some of the kids I mentioned, because we're developing them in this way. And I don't think we've ever had a physical issue with we're not in good enough shape because we didn't condition. We're not strong enough. We're not physically tough enough. We just are. And so if you can take a very common sense, if you put your ego out of it, you know, you take the wives' tales and the mythical stuff out of it, you know. And the other thing I've learned over the years too, we remember ourselves at our best. We don't remember who we were leading up to that. And so I would have former players come back and coach with me, and they would say, man, these kids are soft, coach. What happened? Like, well, they aren't like what we used to be. And I would say, no, they're exactly like what you were when you first got here. You just remember what you ended up being. And so, you know, that's what we tend to do. We don't remember the word. I'm like, you guys made me halfway pull my hair out trying to get you there. And now you're talking about these other kids, you know. So we had that mindset as our old school guys. We always kind of had this, you know, man, how tough we were and how, you know, and yeah, well, there was a toughness add to the game. There's no question about that. Like, I don't deny that. And some of the rules have changed too that are different where, you know, so that even kind of goes to show kind of what we went through was a little bit of a tougher grind, but the game didn't need to be that. The game was that, and we were producing in spite of that, not because of that. And so there's some of those things that we can leave in the past. The game can still be great if we do it the right way, and kids can be safer. Parents can have a lot less worry about letting their kids play if they made the right decision or not. And that's the approach I've taken. I've had a decent measure of success doing it that way. You know, I've had some really good football teams. That team was ranked 18 in the nation at one point. You know, we're always competitive in our area at our class level. We were state semifinalists this past year, state runner-up the year before, won 3 district titles in the 6 years I've been at the current school. And so we, you know, there's the merit to what I'm saying. You know, if we were running around 1 in 10 doing it this way, then people could question it. But there's definitely, and when you start talking risk reward, doing what we're doing and making the game more enjoyable, safer, maybe creating technically better football players at the expense of maybe some of the barbaric stuff. That's just, for me, that's been my philosophy. So,
Jelly, would you like to go out there and coach with your old teammate?
I like that approach. It makes the common sense approach. With what you're doing and what the NFL is doing, the protocol to help the kids, do you feel like the NCAA and NFL finally headed in the right direction, or you think that something you consider can be improved in youth athletics, youth sports and athletics?
Yeah, I think from an on-field perspective, they absolutely are heading in the right direction in terms of making it safe. When they start cutting the number of days back that they can practice, they eliminated 2-a-day, 3-a-day practices. All those things were really smart moves going towards making it a better deal. That end of it, they're doing the right things. Allowing kids to make money, NCAA, they're doing the right things. Like, let those kids make money. They're the most important aspect of the whole deal. I always tell my kids I'm grateful for them because they could go out there without me and still play a football game that everybody will come to see. It might not be as organized, it might not be as good, but people will come watch those kids play. If I show up without them, everybody gonna leave as soon as they realize the kids ain't there to play. So the players are the most important piece of this puzzle. Bottom line, always have been, always will be. So the fact that they're able to make money now is a good thing. I think where they're playing the players is the transfer portal, where they have an unlimited amount of transfers. They transfer every year. They never can set their feet anywhere. They never create a true alumni player relationship. So, they should all get one free transfer. That's common sense. Like, kid makes a recruiting process. They go to a school. Maybe they got under recruited. They can go to a bigger school. They can capitalize on it. Absolutely. One time free transfer for sure. If your coach leaves, transfer again. You should. You signed on to play for this coach. He left. Coach leaves. You should be able to leave. I think that's fair. And then when you graduate, if a kid graduates, we should reward them by allowing them to transfer. If you do it that way, kids are graduating. Kids are, in most cases, staying in a place and making money a little, staying a little bit longer. They still get to make money. They'll get their degree. My concern is if you go to 4 schools in 4 years, when did you graduate? How is it possible that you graduated? And that's where they're getting it wrong right now, in my opinion. But I think it's an easy fix. You just put a little bit of restriction on the transfer, still allow them to make as much money as they possibly can make off their value, and give them a chance. Because the part that they don't talk about is all the kids that go into the portal that never come out of the portal. They're going to the portal and are those kids getting degrees? Are those, because I'll tell you, I played 6 years. I've made more money with my degree than I did playing in the NFL. My degree, I've made more money with my degree than I have playing in the NFL. My teacher, and now they're making a whole lot different money now than when I played. So I'm not making the same, but from the era I played, I've made more money over the 6 I played versus I guess that was the last 26 that I've worked. I've out-earned that because of my degree. Similarly speaking, my teacher pension is going to be bigger than my NFL pension when it's all said and done. So I'm vested in the NFL. I can collect on retirement at 55. Do the same thing in teaching, and the teaching one is going to be bigger. So that being said, kids got to graduate. We can't forget that.
Yes.
Most kids getting that degree is what's going to be the piece that's going to carry them in life. And I've seen it way too many times. Kids, come from Detroit. Jelly, you remember Derek Miller, Henry Ford, D. Mill, yes. Henry Ford. Yes. So he, the year before you he's in St. Louis. He played at Mizzou with me. Has had an unbelievable professional career. He has created a life for himself. City kid from Detroit, from the West Side. Played some. He was a good player here, but played some, but didn't go anywhere near the NFL, and has made it but he's had a great life. He's had great jobs, great family. He's got a kid that ran in the Olympics. He's got another one that played in the UFL and played, Division I ball. Okay. He's an unbelievable life because of that degree and because of that education. So at some point, we got to make sure that that's happening for kids. Can't have them going in the portal, have no place to go, and lose that scholarship and lose that education. So we got to put some guardrails on the thing a little bit.
Do you think it's just they chasing that dollar? They not thinking about that education.
Yeah, chasing a dollar. That's it. Not thinking about long term. And they don't realize, when you're 19, 20 years old, $125,000 sounds like that's life changing. And you don't realize,
What's the minimum now? The minimum now, what, about $500,000?
League is, I think it's more like 7. I think it's up there, yeah. And chasing that dollar is different than chasing that NIL dollar.
It was 156 for me. It was 125.
Yeah. It was 108 for me.
Okay.
It was 108. I came out in 94, so it was 108.
I think practice squad making almost $500,000 now.
Yeah. Completely different game. So if you could play the same career that I played then, now, you would not have to work no more. That'd be plenty enough. So it's different. But the bottom line is that's still just a real small percentage of kids. That's a real getting your degree, and if you're one of them, great. But getting your degree is the thing that, for the majority of people that walk through that door in college sports, the degree is going to be the life-changing thing for you. That'll be,
absolutely.
That's it. So,
man, Pratt, is there anything you need to ask the brother? Because this was an amazing show.
No, man, I just love. Shoot, he just changed my whole. When I go tell my wife that she might feel comfortable putting my son playing second football.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Just you and our conversation.
There's a dilemma in our house right now. He's a big boy. He's gonna definitely be bigger than me.
Yeah,
and aggressive.
And he's aggressive already. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm gonna do something with that aggression.
Yeah, he is aggressive.
Yeah, he's gonna be bigger than my oldest son. He's gonna be bigger than my oldest. Yeah, so. I like that.
If he got it in him to want to do it, man. Like I said, I went through it with my son, man. It's hard to change that up. It's hard to not let him express that. And I think about what you were as a player. I'll never forget standing there. It's crazy things you remember, but you were a rookie, and it was Jeff Mitchell playing center. And I watched you bench press Jeff Mitchell and throw that man on his face. This was like, rookie free agent. I'm like, who gonna make it? Who gonna not? That man is on this team. I watched him. I said, he about to make it. I said, and he about to play a real long time. It's a gift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a gift.
You gotta let him express it, right?
Yeah, you gotta express that gift, man. Got to.
What would you say average career thinking guys should retire? I was thinking about that too with everything going on with concussions. Should it be a cutoff time guys can play in the football?
Like how long they can play?
They should play. Like,
how long they should play? Even way back when, for me, I said, you know what, man, 10 years is plenty. Because if I could get to 10, I don't need more than 10. And that might, the money they make now, you probably don't even need that. But to me, guys playing 20 years, those kind of things, that's tough, man. You see the aftermath of that and what the body is and all that, especially at certain positions. Like that's, so for me, I'd say that. I'd say, it's hard to say though, because everybody is so different in terms of how they take care of themselves. So there's that piece of it too, But I think you could come up with an idea and say, hey, here's the ideal number. Let's monitor. Let's see where you are joint-wise. Let's see what you've had injury-wise. Let's see where you are in terms of your physical, mental, all those different things you can and kind of, maybe assess and evaluate once you get to a certain point. Does it make sense to keep going on? Something like that probably makes a little sense, since everybody's so different. But what you're hitting on is, is a key factor in it, especially with the money they make now, is you can get to a certain point where you've won, brother.
Right. That's right. You won, right. Yeah.
So one of the things I said about my current job now with what my compensation is, with the satisfaction in what I'm doing, with the support I have from administration, the kids I get to coach, the quality of kid I get to coach, all those different, the quality of life I get to have based on my schedule. I'm like, once I'm at a certain point in all those things, chasing more, because people ask me, you gonna go back to college, you gonna do all that? And I'm like, man, chasing more, like for what? Like if I'm happy and I got enough to be satisfied, why am I gonna go chase something and jeopardize that satisfaction? I think it's the same thing. You've played, you've made enough, bro. Like, why jeopardize? Why risk your next 30 years to just do a little bit more? So that's what I think.
Man, well, we're very happy and honored. And again, I think it changed the way myself and Jelly processes this vicious and brutal game. But again, when you're taking proper measures and doing things in a safer manner, then it makes it a little more like, okay, well, maybe I can give it because it is a gift.
Yeah.
You know, why throw that gift away? Do it
No.
with fear.
Yep.
So again, thank you, AJ. We appreciate you, man. We'd like to have you back.
Quick
Again,
question.
Anytime.
go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it as well, man. But I think we got to tell the good and bad. We've been talking. It's been really. They've been these stories been hearing for you been so doomsday,
Yeah.
and it's like anybody listens to it, they just don't want to be involved in football. But just hearing what you're saying, you informed me of something I didn't know. So I think this is good for the parents too. I think it's going to really inform and help a lot of people make the decision. Because I think you just swayed my position.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Play football, so this was definitely a good show, and I think it's going to help a lot of parents.
I'm glad. I appreciate y'all having me, man. It's great to get a chance to touch base, and talk about a lot of these things. You don't get a chance to express it a lot all the time, especially not in a forum like this where a lot of people get a chance to hear and contemplate and try to sort through all this information, all this stuff. So I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, that's my thing. I want to, because I talk to a lot of guys all the time, and I said we need to people want to hear what guys are doing. You know what I'm saying? Because we only hear the negative all the time online about us, and we want to talk about that as well if that's what's going on. But we want to reach out to you guys and hear how you're doing, because there's people out there that still love you guys when we play. They want to do a little checkup, and we really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
Anytime.
You represent Detroit well, brother.
Yes, sir, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that concludes episode 3 with our very special guest, Mr. AJ Ofodile. Man, thanks. And we'll be seeing you every Tuesday on Life After the Gridiron. And we just want to let you know we appreciate you, and join us every Tuesday.
Good.
Welcome to the Conscious Conversations Network, where the real get honest and the silence finally gets broken. In partnership with the Jelly Roll Effect. J for the journey to enlightenment through liberation of life and finding yourself. From the highs of the spotlight to the battles nobody sees after the final whistle.
We proudly present Life After the Gridiron.
Our goal is to highlight the realities they face after service and to align with these institutions to bring support and real solutions. This is about respect and before making any changes to your diet, medication, exercise, or treatment plan. Life After the Gridiron.
Welcome to Life After the Gridiron, where two brothers from two different battlefields come together with one mission. One, a former professional athlete who knows the glory, pressure, and pain behind the game. The other, a decorated military veteran, and together we pay homage to the forgotten heroes. Our brothers, our friends, the warriors who gave everything on the field and on the front lines, but were left fighting silent battles alone. We're here to tell their stories, bring awareness, and help create real solutions so they can receive the care, support, and peace they deserve. Let's talk about it on Life After the Gridiron.